When this talent is nurtured from the word go, we believe that the skaters, scouters, and the scouts themselves will be actually contributing towards developing the sustainable development goal. We are working towards sports for climate change action, and this sports for climate change action is also connected to the sustainable UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Family in Rangundo, Mwea, Kiminyaga County is appealing to world wishers for help to bury their kin whose body has been detained at Kenyatta National Hospital morgue for a month now due to a bill of more than 2 million shillings.
1 month ago, Teresia Wanjiru complained about a pain in her head, something that her family didn't know would culminate into a serious illness that would send her into intensive care unit and later death.
Kule Nyeri ndio sasa mama yetu tukaambiwa sasa huko hawezi saidika kwa sababu kulingana na vile walimpiga picha wakaona mishipa ya kichwa ilikuwa imekatwa na pressure. Wakatuambia sasa mama yetu sio mzuri, tutafute haraka mahali tutapata ICU, na wao pia walikatuambia wanaendelea kutusaidia kutafuta. Mahali walitutafutia ICU ni Kenyatta. Kwenda Kenyatta huku chini tukaambiwa huko hakuna vacancy ya ICU, iko huko juu private wing. Sasa hatukujua tofauti ya huku na kule juu. Sisi tuliona tu ni Kenyatta na hatukuwa na lingine, ndio mama akapandishwa huko na ndiko alipumzikia.
According to Martha Wanjiku, who is a family member, since the demise of Teresia, her body has been detained at the Kenyatta National Hospital for more than a month now because of a pending bail.
Kwenda huko kumchukua, sababu kwenda huko sasa kuuliza kama tunaweza mchukua ndio sasa tutayarisha mambo ya send off. Tukaambiwa mwezi mtoa hapa kwa ile pesa imebaki, mko na bill ya 2.2 million and 70,000. Tulirundi hapa nyumbani tukafanya harambee ambayo ilitupatia 150,000. Hiyo harambee ilitupatia 150,000 kurudi Kenyatta. Tukawaambia tunawaomba hata kama ni agreement tukue nayo ndio waweze kuturudishia mam na hiyo pesa. Wakasema hapana, haitawezekana.
With the current economic situation in the country, the burden being carried by Teresia's family is heavy. The family has tried their best, including selling some of the family's property, organizing a fundraiser, and even reaching out to the area leadership for assistance. They are now calling upon well-wishers to offer a helping hand through Julius Githiru's phone number 0720-320-329. This will enable them to offset the bill for them to offer a decent send-off to their loved one. Beatrice Kageha, Lookuptv.
Now, plastic pollution has been on the increase in recent years, degrading the environment to impossible heights. In order to change the narrative, however, 2 street boys from Nyahururu have started making flower vases from recycled plastic bottles as a means to earn a living and conserve the environment.
After spending many years in the streets, 2 street boys from Nyahururu opted for a change and started collecting plastic bottles and other plastic materials, turning them into beautiful end products. Benson Juma and Benson Gichuhi have been making beautiful flowers and flower vases from recycled plastic bottles.
Na ukiangalia hata uwezi unasema ati ni balbu, hapana. Na hata ukiwa na battery unashikisha na huku chini na tena iwake. Tayari iko na balbu yake ndani. Ukishikia battery hapa inaweza waka. Kwa hivyo ni kama huwa yani expressive, yani kakiwa ndani ya nyumba kama ridadi.
Juma, an orphan boy who has been on the streets for over 20 years, after collecting the bottles, cutting the materials into desired shapes, paints them, then later sells them within the town.
Sasa hii inanisaidia, ni kazi ya kutengeneza maua na ninaunda kwa plastic, tumia chupa hizi za plastic. Haya, natumia chupa za mizinga kuwekelea maua yangu. Haya, natumia yani aina yoyote tu ya waste ya plastic kutengeneza hii kitu.
Juma notes that although it's a self-trained skill, he has been working hard to improve the craft. However, it has been difficult making money from the trade due to the negativity associated with street families, citing harassment by security officers on patrol within Bagation area.
Hii Bagation nimekaa kwa muda wa miaka karibu 6. nikiwa na makazi zingine hivi tuvibarua, lakini mimi sijaiona ubaya wa bagation juu hata experience mingi nimetoa wapi hapa. Kama hii sifa ya hapa wengi wanaijua ni baya juu ni mahali watu wanavuta bangi, sijui watu wanavuta gamu, lakini kuna wenye wanafanya hiyo maneno, si ati kila mtu.
James Wang'ong'u, a local businessman, has lauded the boys' initiative to make good use of plastic waste.
Na ile kitu tungependa sana ni serikali ya Governor Ilongo isaidie vijana. Sababu wanafanya kazi mzuri ya kutengeneza hii maua ya plastic, haitaki maji. Sasa wanatengeneza lakini hauna mahali ya kuuza.
Once disposed, plastic can take centuries to break down, making recycling the best option as it reduces the environmental impact and creates economic opportunities as well. The Laikipia County government has been urged to support the young people not only in making vases but also provide them with a nice place where they can display their wares.
Geomba tu serikali tusaidie hii maua, naweza uza na niokolee kwa maisha. Juu sina kazi nyingine naweza tegemea. Ati niseme nitategemea kazi nyingine ama niajiriwe.
Maisha bado imekuwa mangumu. Juu kama wakati sasa kama sasa umeona imekosa rangi. Sasa kama sasa hakuna kitu tunauza. Sasa hii tumekaa hivi juu hakuna rangi. Juu sasa Kenya unapata unashindwa nani ni kukula ama ni rangi.
Amin Abdurrahman, Lookuptv.
Kitengela Hospital Management has built a permanent stone wall and added security officers to boost security and a facility following cases of patients fleeing hospital before making payments. Gail Aluda, with more.
In efforts to handle instances of patients escaping from Kitengela Hospital in Kajiado County, the management has ensured a stone wall has been built and security officers are attached to it. The manager, Veronica Abuto, has said that cases of patients escaping to avoid paying medical bills has been a big concern. Abuto explains that cases of gangs escaping through hospital wards has been causing fear and lots of concerns among health workers who work especially on night shift.
Nimeshukuru sana kwa hii mikakati ya ukuta. Tulikuwa na wagonjwa wanatoroka, hata unapata wajambazi. Saa zingine wanakimbia kama wanafukuzwa. Unawapata tu kwa ward, wamekuja kujificha kwa ward. Sasa hiyo hatuna sasa kwa sababu ya hii fence. Tena tulikuwa hata na ng'ombe. Ng'ombe inakuja kwa hospitali. Sasa tunakuwa na shida. Tunakuwa na hiyo shida ya ng'ombe, wagonjwa na watu. Sasa hiyo imesaidia sana. Hata watu kutoroka na vitu imesaidia sana kwa sababu kila mtu lazima apite kwa gate.
The system for registering patients has also aided greatly to ensure efficiency in service delivery. Aluda Gail, Lookuptv.
President William RUTO, who is on an official visit to the United States, has reiterated the need for the United Nations to address the glaring inequality in funding on climate change mitigation measures. RUTO speaking while he co-chaired the United Nations General Assembly in New York. He revisited Africa's declarations during the Africa Summit held in Nairobi, which pointed out challenges faced by African nations in the fight against climate change. The head of a state is adamant for Africa to play a crucial role in addressing climate change challenges that must be funded adequately and timely, as Henry Tendena reports.
Good morning, President.
In his address of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States, Kenya's President William RUTO says the current inequality in funding of climate change mitigation programs ought to be addressed if the war on climate change is to be successful. President RUTO is adamant African nations have for the longest time suffered inequality in funding and a delay in release of such funds, yet as a continent it bears the brutal effects of climate change. This, he says, needs to change.
The reason capital is not available to unlock Africa's colossal potential is that development financing has been inadequate, inaccessible, and costly, denying countries the fiscal space to pursue development and climate action. The reform of the international architecture of global development financing should therefore be at the forefront of the global development and climate action agenda.
President Ruto has also called for enhanced research and heavy investments in research activities to ensure climate change mitigation approaches are backed by scientifically proven data for long-term results.
The time has come for the international community to mobilize adequate resources for common global finance mechanisms accessible to all, serving the global public good and unlocking the necessary private capital for research and development. For Africa in particular, such investment is urgently needed for evidence-based sustainable development and climate-positive growth.
As a show of Kenya's readiness to adopt technology and preservation of the climate, President Ruto pointed out the journey the country has traveled in innovation to make the world a better place to live in.
We have adopted a bottom-up economic transformation agenda which puts job creation at its core with agriculture, affordable housing, universal health coverage, manufacturing, MSMEs, the digital economy, and climate-positive growth as sectoral pillars of our implementation. This has unleashed the entrepreneurial spirit of our youth and positioned Kenya as a global digital technology hub known as Africa's Silicon Savannah. Concert Technopolis, the flagship of this ambition, is ready to host a thriving community of science, technology, and innovation visionaries seeking to disrupt and transform every sector of our economy.
On the sidelines of the assembly, President Ruto signed an agreement with Millennium Challenge Corporation that will see 8.7 billion shillings in funding advanced to Kenya to invest in clean transport system through acquisition of electronic buses.
There is a whole 1 million people who come in and out of Nairobi every day. That poses a very significant challenge on the transport infrastructure. So apart from the matatu transport system, the mass bus transport system is a very important component.
The funding will also boost the school feeding program in Nairobi County. Henry Tende, Lookuptv.
Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital Board Chair Olive Muganda had a difficult time explaining why Kenyatta University students are unable to access the facility for learning purposes. Appearing before the Public Investments Committee on Governance and Education, Muganda said students are required to apply to the hospital to access training services. Now, the Vice Chancellor Paul Wanaina, however, told the committee that the hospital was primarily a training facility for students at conception. Stanley Lugaria looks into that story.
On Wednesday, it was revealed that the construction of Kenyatta University Hospital was valued at 8 billion shillings, a loan between the two government funded by the Chinese government, with the two leaders indicating that their differences emerged when the government, through the then head of public service, wrote to Kenyatta University over plans to take over without KU administration representation in the subsequent sittings.
And what happened after that is that we, as management, were requested actually to hand over the hospital. The contractors were still on site. They were also asked to hand over. I still recall Mr. Kenya's letter indicating that they need to hand over.
We have a relationship with Professor.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think Prof is right that he was my deputy for 5 years. And we worked together. We had no issues at all. Chair, we worked as colleagues. He respected me as his VC. I think this issue just came up now when the hospital was made into a parastatal.
Attorney General Justin Muturi, following today's session closely, has revealed and faulted the previous regime through the then head of public service Joseph Kinyua of approving revocation and procedurally without consulting respective stakeholders from school to a parastatal facility. The chairperson of the referral hospital, Professor Olive Mogenda, had a difficult time before the committee, explaining the allegations of misappropriation of the hospital funds as per the Auditor General report while in office as the Chancellor of Kenyatta University during construction project of the hospital.
I happily am glad to hear the two professors address as well. But I think from us, as the state law office, we go by the records of what we have.
During the session, it was found that the chief executive at the Kenyatta University Training and Referral Hospital does not qualify to hold the office after it was discovered that he has only qualified as a nurse and not a doctor as he should be legally. The committee has now asked the management of the hospital to be properly responsible in the whole process, while the chairperson Mugenda defends herself, saying that the executive officer is in office following a court order.
It was just doctors.
So has that law changed?
It was, I don't know that about the change, but it was...
No. So you don't know about the change. Is the CEO a doctor?
No, but the court order chair. He's not a doctor. He's not a doctor. But the court order...
Madam Professor, don't be quick to take us other directions.
The committee has agreed to organize a joint session which will include the cabinet secretaries in the Ministries of Education and Health, Attorney General Justin Muturi, and representatives from Kenyatta University and Hospital to find a lasting solution between the two opposing sides together. Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, at the Parliament Building, Nairobi.
Lugaria, Stanley. Now, the government has assured Kenyans that their data will be protected as the National Digital ID, alias Maisha Number, is set to be launched at the end of this month. Speaking in Abubi during the start of an awareness campaign, Immigration Principal Secretary Julius Bitok hosted civil society as one way of bringing about inclusion of the public, especially those from marginalized communities, aiming to build public confidence on the entire process.
Hosting the civil society in a breakfast meeting to discuss the National Digital ID, popularly known as Maisha Number, that will provide over 5,000 government digital services. Permanent Secretary for Immigration, Citizen Services Julius Bitok now says the main aim is to make sure every Kenyan gets an opportunity to give their own opinion and feedback on the implementation of the National Digital ID.
We have discussed several things, including UPI, including third generation ID, digital ID, and National Master Population Register. And the objective of this breakfast is to reach out to the civil society, to be able to engage them, to be able to get their ideas, because we want to make this process an all-inclusive process where every Kenyans from all walks of life are able to get an opportunity to give their opinions, to give their feedback on the implementation of National Digital ID.
This follows a directive given by the President William RUTO that digitization of government services will ensure efficiency and elevate corruption. Irungu Houghton, director of Amnesty Africa, now says they have put the preconditions for effective digitization of the identity, saying that the design of the UPI and the third generation digital ID will be based on principles, naming public trusts is one of the challenges encountered.
Of the UPI and the third generation digital ID, that it is based on three principles. The first is public safety. Ensuring that data protection, that your privacy as Kenyans is protected by design, not by accident, but by design. Secondly, that there is inclusion, that for those communities that have been marginalized, denied their right to citizenship, denied their right to a state and to a very identity, that should not happen in this process.
The PS now calls for every stakeholders to be part of the implementation, noting that the government has guaranteed Kenyan people security on their data, adding that the system will ensure authenticity of their documents.
Today, we are here to build public confidence. We are here to guarantee the country that the document we are bringing on board is a secure document, and it will be an all-inclusive document that is going to eliminate marginalization of communities. It's going to be all-inclusive for all of us. It's going to capture all what is required to ensure that we have a digital identity for all Kenyans. So I want to say that we are making arrangements towards unveiling.
A working group has been set by the PS to end up the assessment process. Mission number will be launched by the President on the 29th of September this year. Mavin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has emphasized the government has initiated a security operation in response to threats of terrorism and violence extremism in northern Kenya and the upper coastal regions, including Tana River and Lamu counties. The operation involves the deployment of special forces and elite units tasked with pursuing and neutralizing armed criminals.
Cabinet Secretary for Interior Security Professor Kithure Kindiki has announced that they will be deploying special units to terrorist attack-prone areas who will help to do a thorough research on primary source of insecurity on such areas. However, without mincing a word, Kindiki has issued a warning to political leaders who have been inciting residents against peace maintenance, explaining that these leaders should cooperate with the relevant authorities to find a permanent solution.
We are going to deploy in this county special forces, elite units of the National Police Service and other national security organs here in Tana River. We are going to deploy the special forces, special units who are specially trained and equipped to deal with serious crimes, including terrorism and banditry.
Speaking in the Galedietu area in Tana River County, while approving the office of the Deputy Commissioner, Kindiki has indicated that his ministry has initiated a project to employ special units and elite units that will help to assess sustainable solutions.
Tumeamua ni vita kamili baina ya serikali ya Kenya na hawa magaidi. Na wale vikosi ambao tunaleta hapa hawacheki na magaidi. Na wanajua jinsi ya kuwashughulikia. Na kama mlivyosikia kutoka kwa rais na amiri jeshi mkuu wa taifa na vikosi vya usalama na ulinzi wa taifa, kwa magaidi na wale wakora sugu, mambo ni matatu. Mambo ni mangapi?
In addition, he continues to say that this can only be achieved if the county leaders, village elders, the locals and security departments agree to work together, giving an example of the Kalalani area which has lost hundreds of people recently.
Ili tuweze kusaidiana, sisi tunawatambua mmechaguliwa kwa kura na tunawaheshimu. Governor, Senator, Women Rep, MPs, MCA, we respect you as the elected leaders of this county. And we'll work with you. We'll seek your opinions.
Later, Kindiki headed to Kitui County to establish a general service unit camp in Mandongoi. Addressing a security baraza, he noted that through the Ministry of Lands, the government shall expedite process of land adjudication and issuance of title deeds to help resolve security issues that emanate from land ownership disputes. Lastly, he warned that criminals using firearms to attack security officers and civilians will be handled ruthlessly, as he applauded KDF for their efforts to protect Kenyans.
Na hawa maofisa hawaja kuja hapa kufanya utalii. Hawaja kuja hapa kuzurura na kuangalia hii dunia yetu ya Ngomeni na Mandongoi. Wako tuna shughuli moja. Ile shughuli imewaleta hapa ni kutafutana na wakora na watu ambao walikuwa wametawala eneo hili na kuzorotesha usalama wetu kwa kuharibu, kuiba mali ya wengine na hata kuharibu mashamba ya watu wakilisha hayo mashamba.
Roga Evil, Lookuptv.
So what we talk about this morning is simple. What's going on in the Kenya Kwanza government? Why you regarding telling Kenya Kwanza members of parliament or the elected leaders to either ship in or ship out? So the president has already called for a meeting next week of all the elected and nominated members of the UDA. Wants to speak to them. But then at the end of the day, this power struggle, seeming power struggle within the Kenya Kwanza government, is it something worth noting? Once we come back, we table that conversation, but you can talk to us right now. Are there cracks within the Kenya Kwanza government once we come back? Etio Manyu.
Did you know that 17 women die every day in Kenya during a childbirth? We lose about 39,000 newborns due to preventable conditions like malaria, neonatal sepsis, as well as diarrheal diseases. And guess what? These deaths of mothers and newborns, they are both preventable. RUTO Care Box is an organization that's extremely passionate about reducing maternal and newborn deaths using a simple box, a simple public health initiative that is a box, and life-saving education.
Today we are at St. John's Hospital here in Githurai. We are here in conjunction with RUTO Care Box.
Mimi ya leo kwanza ni kushukuru RUTO Foundation wakiwa pamoja na RUTO Care kwa sababu ya kuangalia mama wetu.
I really feel very honored by RUTO because I never even thought anybody could think about us, the way you have done. And thank you very much.
Lucy, we just want to tell you from RUTO that you're one of our first Shuja.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the RUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Let's go. Let's go.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na Manjoro. Kumbuka hapa ndipo unajifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima.
Kilimo ni uti wa mgongo wa nchi, na ukiwa na Njoro unajifunza. Kumbuka, angalia mwenyewe. Tunakuambia ukitaka kujua tips za ukulima, ungana na sisi kwenye Lookuptv. Every Sunday unatukuta pale saa 10, tunakuonesha kuhusu ukulima. Ukulima wa mimea, ukulima wa ng'ombe, ukulima wa kuku, ukulima wa mbuzi na yote ambayo yanahusiana na ukulima. Kumbuka nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali.
Praise the Lord and Bwana Yesu asifiwe sana. My name is Pastor Josiah. I'm from a ministry called Reconcilers World. God gives strength to the weary. I am, Jesus is speaking. He says, I am the door. Then he says, anyone who enters in through me will be saved. The Lord is my shepherd or shepherd. Then he says, I will always have everything I need. God desires to guide you. He's telling you that this day, don't just trust the Lord, but he's telling you, trust the Lord widely.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today. Or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
Let's talk about what is going on in the Kenya Kwanza government as we do not of it. So, two stories that are essentially gripping the headlines this morning, and I'm going to reach for the standards so that we can actually talk about it. Okay, here we go. This is what the standard is talking about this morning. No longer at ease. Now, bear time with me just before I introduce the guest who's joining us, or the guest who's going to join us in the studio shortly then, so that I could put this for you in proper perspective. They're saying all is not well in President RUTO's inner sanctums, and it's exploding into the open fast. First, it was UDA Secretary General Malala taking up battle to collapse Kenya Kwanza affiliate parties. And now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and Trade CS Moses Kuria have opened a can of worms with their war of words, triggering resignation calls for the former Gatundu Member of Parliament. Now, let's see other conversations that have been covered on the front page of the Standard, and I don't know whether my director can also pause that for our audience this morning, so I can be part of that as well. Now, this is what David India has been saying, and I want to do a proper quote. He's saying, we do what we think can work. If it doesn't, too bad. I don't believe politicians, and I don't trust government. If you do either, you are a sucker. Bonigaluale, I still stand by what I said. Moses Kuria should be fired, and the Economic Advisory Council should be reconstituted. Let's talk about Rigathi Gachagua. Addressing Kenyans currently facing problems with decorum and respect is the hallmark of humility. Those given the responsibility by the president must remain calm and address challenges facing the people. Moses Kuria, I've since been advised by people like Dr. Galuale and his master that the statement was incorrect, insensitive, and arrogant. Finally, Clovis Malala saying, one of my mandates, is to talk with our partners to have one party. We can't have one government and several colors. That's where we are. So these are the top brass then in the Kenya Kwanza government, and seemingly all of them are speaking with different voices, to the point now that some members within our party, especially Dr. Boni Galwale, telling the president, if you don't fire them, I'm going to leave. You know? Because what is this? Now, what we do know is that the president has called for a UDA party meeting that is scheduled to happen next week. Whether this has got anything to do with it, we do not know. What we do know is that looking from outside within, then indeed somebody somewhere is telling the president, you have some people in that government that are not essentially speaking the voice of the government. That's what we're asking this morning. Are there cracks in Kenya Kwanza? Let me introduce the guest who's already in the studio with us. Nabeso Brown, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Happy to have you around. I'm going to jump directly into this with you. And if you did see as well the Daily Nation, it's also asking the same question. You like to think that the editors were reading from the same script. Is there trouble in paradise? Let's begin. That's the question that I want to ask you.
I really want to agree with the editors from both newspapers. Mm-hmm. And first, looking at Moses Kuria, it's very unfortunate that at this time we are having leaders. We are having a leader who is supposed to give hopes to Kenyans, who is supposed to work, mm-hmm. and ensure that the crisis which is currently there in the country is resolved or being part of the solution. Yes. But now he's the same guy who is coming out with reckless words to Kenyans. You know, we are crippling, and there is a problem with the high cost of living, more so fuel. Yes, as much as we may understand that it's not within our control, but it was not wise for Moses Kuria to ask those people who are asking the government to do something, yes, to have their wells. You know, it beats logic that being in the ministry that is directly which should be one of the ministry which should be directly involved, yes, in working around this fuel issue and the cost of living and the economy at large. He's not trying, but asking us to continue bearing the heavy weight of the prices, yes, at the pump, which entirely affects the whole economy. So being requested to tame his language and tone, it is the correct thing. Yes. And I also want to support the majority who are really calling him to be reconsidered. And this is the problem now, sometimes, of having the high volatile members of parliament, who are once members of parliament, into ministries as ministers. You know, Moses Kuria, I think he still thinks that he's still the member of parliament who was elected on the platform of elect me, I go deal with the Raila Odinga, if you can remember, when he was going for by-election. Yes. And all along, he has been in trouble with his words, hate speech, and so forth. Now, I think he has forgotten that right now he is supposed to be heading a ministry which is very crucial in this country. And secondly, on Boni Halwale, yes, I think it's the same thing. He has mentioned him as one of the people, one of the CSS who should be reconsidered and be fired or be moved to some other duties. You know, Moses Kuria, currently, he has sparked a lot of conversation. Same to economic advisor. You know, as economic advisor to the president, Elijah, you should be advising the government on what to be done. You are there, you have been given duties and roles by the president. Just the other week, we saw tweets from David Ndii, and you wonder, is he really working as an economic advisor? Because some of the things that he puts on his Twitter accounts doesn't reflect what he should be doing. We expect him to be advising the president at the moment and the government on what to do around the economy, but he comes out saying that it's not going to work. So also it makes us raise questions that are they not, it's either the government is not really adapting or getting or hearing what the advisors are giving to them, or it's them who are not doing their job rightly as the advisors. When I come to this issue of collapsing the parties, I think it can easily take us back to where Jubilee was, and it might in other way work against the Kenya Kwanza government if at all they are going to collapse these parties. Let me take an example of Ford Kenya. Ford Kenya is largely a community party, or largely within Bungoma and some of Trans Nzoia yes. Majorly the Bukusu land, if I can say so, because this is a party which is majorly associated. So if you are going to say that let us break Ford Kenya down, you know, there are some forces who will easily take up that party, and you see, you look at the number of votes that even for Kenya itself, if we can take a close analysis with on the contribution of Ford Kenya as a party, it majorly dominates in Bungoma County. Bungoma County has majorly voted for Raila since 2013, and look at the shift in presidential votes between 2013, 2017 and 2027. It shifted from almost the same percentage shifted from Raila's side to RUTO side, cutters of Ford Kenya. And now imagine that this party is going to be collapsed. You know, it means that it will not be easy. And I had one time the current Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, saying that elections were won and lost in Bungoma. And I largely agree with that, because this is a county which has been dominated by Raila Odinga. And this time, it changed. And you're looking at the presidential vote roadmap and the picture of the map, within the entirely western and the Nyanza region, it's only Bungoma which is yellow. So, given an opportunity, this county can easily vote back, can shift back to Raila Odinga. So, if they are going to collapse this party, it will have a problem. So, I think the UDA Secretary General's push to have a one party, it's not a good idea. And also, when it comes to the next election, you know, after the election, we will have many wrangles in controlling the party. The same thing that happened to Jubilee.
So let's even before we get to party politics, because this is a question that I'm going to ask you, Nabeswa.
Yes.
That the president knows very well the utterances of Moses Kuria and David Ndii. It's not the very first time. You might say that this time around he was not in the country when Moses Kuria and David Ndii were essentially talking about this, but he sees it, he hears it. Not once has David Ndii not said, well, you know, we're trying. If it doesn't work, fine. But if you trusted a politician, and David Ndii is a man who's also gone on record doubting the plan for the Kenya Kwanza government, especially on expenditure, says, I do not understand how this particular government here is spending its money. Come in, put down policies, then boom, whatever it is that we agreed on is exactly the opposite of what is going on the ground. So let me ask you a question then.
Yes.
We can't sit here and pretend that the president hasn't seen it. He has seen it, he's had it, and is open to the fact that majority of the people in the Kenya Kwanza government are saying, well, we belong to this government. You can't speak like that. Moses Kuria has the audacity again to come back and say, I am not a CS who's going to lie to you, give you false hope. Comes in and says, look here, I'm going to tell you what it is. Comes back, and I'm going to read for you that particular statement. Again, if indeed we can look at that statement again this morning on the Standard. This is what it says. Now, listen to this. I've since been advised by people like Dr. Kalwale and his master that he knows very well that I'm going to stick to what I said regardless of what happens. Is he speaking like a man who knows very well that nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, Nabiswa, is going to happen to me? And for the sake of the definition of this, what does it mean when he says Dr. Kalwale and his master? What is the definition of that particular statement? Nabiswa, if you can help us.
You know, probably Moses Kuria referring to a master. You know, after those words,
yes,
the first leader within the Kenya Kwanza government who came out to criticize him was Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, criticizing his words. So probably he's just telling them off that Halwale and the deputy president, I'm going to tone it down. But is it
on a particular basis? It's a good thing that you're casting aspersions that he might be speaking directly to the deputy president and Boni Halwale.
Yes.
On a particular basis, what gives him the audacity then, Nabiso Brian, for him to tell off the deputy president, for him to tell off the likes of Boni Halwale? Is that not what I'm asking you? That he knows very well this position that I have, I'm not going to come out.
Yeah, you know, Moses Kuria, I think, for me, I'll just term it, he has a certain kind of kiburi, like, knowing that, you know, this is a kind of a leader that every politician that will want to be on his side. And even the president himself knows that it's 2027, it's also crucial to him. And he really needs to...
Is that it then? Is that it?
Yeah.
That the president now is tolerating this particular sentiments from the likes of Moses Kuria, from the likes of Chilcher, from the likes of David D, because he knows very well that 2027 cuts are still on the table. Is that what it is?
You know, for the first term, yes. And we have seen even the last, we have seen even with the previous regimes.
Yes.
And first, I think the good thing, the signing of the performance contract, this is where now we want to see how it's going to work, because the ministers themselves,
is it going to do anything?
There's now what we want to see, if the president is going to use that thing as a scorecard,
yes,
which they signed as a scorecard,
yes,
to keep or to fire.
If you want to fire Moses Kuria, you would have fired him 2 weeks ago, when he couldn't tell the prices of cooking oil in the country. If you want to fire him, you would have fired him 2 weeks ago, when he went on air and said, well, the prices of cooking oil in the country have really come down. And the president has been on note saying, well, I need you people to perform your jobs. Tell Kenyans what our development agenda is. So you go on national television as a CS, and when you're asked, what is that? No, you're told the average cooking prices in this country are this. Then you say, nah, they're not. And then you're proven wrong. Is that not enough for you to come out and say, well, you're embarrassing me enough, then you gotta go home?
That's the call.
Why hasn't he done it?
That is the call.
Yes.
But, you know, looking at the formation of the Kenya Kwanza government itself,
yes.
You know, Moses Kuria is like a principal in Kenya Kwanza government. You remember he came with his own chama, and he was in a coalition, not as a member of UDA. So I think that signing of the Kenya Kwanza MOU is what is giving him a lifeline. But I still believe, Elijah, strongly that Moses Kuria, at the moment, and considering the docket that he holds, he is one of the ministers who are really lacking the president's performance back. And I believe that if not, he needs also consider the docket that he holds in. It is the docket which should be contributing largely in the finding solutions of the economic crisis that this country is going through. But the guy is, and I'm not. I want to think to believe that he should be one of those people that even the president said they don't know what is happening in this country.
Is that a failure from the president then? And I'll give you another example, Nabiso Pran. We've had envoys that have come to this country and have blatantly refused to speak to Moses Kuria. Important investment partners who have come to this country, and you're sitting somewhere as a president. You've appointed a trade CS. Envoys come to this country and then they say, nah, we're not going to speak to your trade CS. We do not like him. We do not associate with his mannerism. His utterances go against everything that we believe in. They come to this country to talk about trade and investments, and then they say, nah, we're not going to speak to him. But Nabisoa, at that point, as the president, is that not the right time for you to make a call and say, hey, bro, I know you're my guy, but you see these things, I can't have them happening in my government. See, I put you in this particular position because I wanted you to help me deliver my government's agenda. But when we have the same people supposed to come into this country and help us improve our investments and trade and make trade collaborations, and then they refuse to speak to you, then why do I have you here? Bro, you got to step aside. Is it the failure now of the president not to crack the whip on the likes of Moses Kuria that is putting this his government in this position? Because now every other person is questioning not Moses Kuria and Abiso Brand, they're questioning the president.
Elijah, the problem now that us as a country really, and I've really bought this idea that the CS, the cabinet secretaries, should be technocrats or such. You know, sometimes politicians, they usually have the best policies. If looking at Moses Kuria, when he was selling his investments, trade ideas, when he was running for governorship, and at one point I saw him speak at current residence on matters, investments, cooperatives, and whatever. They were the guy appears to be very brilliant, but I think when the guy now is given the job, he has forgotten that now this time he should be like a CEO, a team leader. Now he's gone back to politicking. He's gone back to that Katundu member of parliament. But now here on this issue of presidential reconsideration, I think probably the president does not want to be so quick. We've had issues of political betrayal in this country, Elijah, and probably we are expecting that in 1 year of the government, I'm saying 1 year of the government functionality. You know, this year, the first 1 year of the Kenya Kwanza government, we've had there has been many challenges, and we have to agree on that, Elijah, in terms of working and all those. Many of the ministries, including governors, both from opposition, told us there were no funds to work, and I still believe that let us have a few 4 or 5 months, then we see what the president has to do. But
at a time when you've spent 1 year in office, Nabiswa Brand, should you be dealing with the behavior of the cabinet secretaries you have in your office, or you should just be dealing with the development agenda? Because all of a sudden now there are people who are questioning the behavior of some of the leaders in the Kenya Kwanza government, and you want to give them more time, 4 to 5 months, at a time when every other person is questioning your government agenda, your development agenda, and you have these critical leaders within that government who are not speaking the same voice as you want them to speak in solidarity with your agenda, Nabiswa Brian. Don't you think this call for give them more time, giving more time to Moses Kuria isn't going to stop him from speaking whatever he's talking right now? Giving more time to Moses Kuria, you like to think, is not going to help him understand the cost of cooking prices in the country, is there? It doesn't take 1 year for you to know what a liter of cooking oil costs in the country. It doesn't take 1 year for you to know that whatever prices are in Ruiru are the same ones that are in Eldoret. It doesn't take 1 year, Nabiswa Brian.
Let me believe, and I have seen a section of the government members of parliament calling for these guys to be taken into, I'll say, a rehabilitation or whatever.
Yes.
They need to sit down, because all these CSS, they have the potential to deliver. They need to be called down.
Are you scared from saying President Dr. William RUTO made a mistake? Here, he got it wrong. There, he got it wrong. He should fix it. Because they're the likes of Boni Kaluale who have, for lack of a better word, who've got the muscle to tell the president, if you do not take them out, I'm going to leave this party. And we're going to play for you that clip. And it's a good thing that you can help us interpret what he exactly meant, because we're speaking to the people in the Western community. We're telling them, I can't be in a government, but we're trying to achieve a development agenda. But you listen to the people speak about it, they're not even giving Kenyan citizens hope that things are going to get better. Now, I want you to hold your thoughts there, because once we come back, I would like to welcome Nen Mashari to the conversation. I already see him in the studio, so that we could make sense of this. Once we come back, Nabiswa Brian is going to weigh in on the sentiments of Rigathi Gachagua. Now, let me tell you what Rigathi Gachagua told the president. The talks are the bombers of Kenya. We do not want them. But because you're the president, you have it your way. We are not going to disagree with you. But if you are to ask us within the party, we do not want that. We do not understand why we're talking about that. So that's the deputy president addressing the president on what the general feeling within the party is, which is why we are asking the question, are there cracks within the Kenya Kwanza government? Once we come back, the super party push by General Malala.
Once again, tuko hapa Angel Center for Abandoned Kids, all because of you.
My name is Catherine Wanjiru Njero. I am the admin, Angel Center for Abandoned Children. Our founder is Wamaitha Mwangi. We currently have 64 children, 32 going to school, and among those 32, 2 are special children, and we are left at the home with 32. Now the toddlers and the infants. To the LUTO Foundation, thank you so much for remembering us. Guy, we lack words. We lack words. Amazing. We don't know what to say. Thank you for remembering us. You made a promise and you have delivered. And may God bless you. To my fellow Kenyans, as usual, cheza LUTO, sio ndoto. Angel Center tumeshinda LUTO.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the LUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi. which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Drift. For those who are just joining us, we are looking or questioning about the seeming cracks within the Kenya Kwanza government. And this morning, we did ask the question, if indeed there are those cracks, and we're on with that conversation. You can join us online on Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Joining us now, together with Abisu Abran, is Mr. Masharia Paul. How are you doing, sir?
Sorry for being late.
Karibu sana. Anyway, so this is where we are with this conversation. Let me bring you up to speed so that now you can essentially also start painting the picture of where we are with this government. There are men in critical positions in the government. A chief economic advisor to the president becomes a very integral man. And you like to think he would want to speak the voice of the president. But now what we've seen throughout is that after the campaigns, David Ndii is a man who's been speaking his own voice. He's saying, we are the Economic Council, we're going to try, we're not so sure if it's going to work. If you believe the promises of the president, that's on you. For us, we are an Economic Council, we do not know if it's going to work. One Moses Kuria has also been put on the spot, and the likes of Chilcher, for not essentially speaking the voice of the president, of the government. They're now speaking independently. The question this morning is this. If Boni Khalwale, the likes of Rigathi Gachagua, are now warning this too, is that sign enough that this government, with the way it's been set, there are already cracks that are building within the Kenya Kwanza government?
Thank you, Elijah. And this, I wish to know and I wish to understand, because Moses Kuria is a person I understand and I believe he knows the essence and the impact of whatever he says. Sometimes back, Elijah, we were here discussing about his utterances with regards to the freedom of the media.
Yeah.
That was taken up by the president, the deputy president, in support of what he said, abusing some media houses. This time around, he has said things that, and of course I also wish to note that he apparently, there was an apology he sent. And I think what we can read, because reading and understanding what's happening, is informed by one, what we are seeing, two, what is being communicated, by what is not being communicated. One thing is clear, that in essence, the government ought to speak in one voice. And every government, we don't need a perfect government. We just need one, a government that is trying, genuine trying. Two, a government that is pragmatic in terms of handling the concerns of Kenyans. Three, the government that sympathizes with the people and the challenges they are going through. Not the government that is cynical, laughing at the people. Of course we understand. And the problem is not really about how life is difficult. But Elijah, when somebody comes to your house and laugh at how you slept hungry, sleeping hungry might not be the problem, but how they are laughing at you that you slept hungry is the problem. What we need to see from the government, because one of the things that the governments need, it is to inspire faith, to inspire confidence, to inspire hope to the people. But when the government, why do we say the government is obligated to do those things? Because it has one, the personalities, two, the machinery, three, the resources, and four, it is allowed by law. When we voted, we gave the people we elected a mandate to make decisions for us. And no genuine person can make a wrong decision for himself, not even for us. Now, when somebody who is supposed to come up with a strategy on how to curb, on how to tackle the challenges that Kenyans are facing, they are selling damn hope that, I mean, it is not even possible. You're going to suffer forever. I think there seems to be a departure. And I think the departure is ill-informed. One, it may be as a result of the personal gratification or personal misadventure by the leaders themselves. Yes. Because when they are serving, they are supposed to conduct themselves in a manner that upholds the positions they hold. Now, when somebody makes an utterance that I am the president, the Constitution does not even recognize the hierarchy to place him as the president. And I'm doing this as the president. I mean, those are outrageous statements. And the making those statements, we ought to be concerned, why would he make those outrageous statements? One would, maybe he wants the discussion to be around him. Yeah. Of course, we understand now everyone is talking about him. Some people become famous because of doing great things. Others becomes infamous because of doing the things that are inflicting pain on people. So you can become famous because of serving people. Like there are some cabinet secretaries who are doing excellently good, and there are the others who they are not doing what they're supposed to, but they are doing things on the opposite direction. So I think the utterances and the context. One, what we can read, because us mainly we speculate from and understand from what we can see. The government is not speaking in one voice. That's one. Two, it may mean, one, the government has not thought through about what we are going through genuinely, so that then it can be able to speak in one voice. That being the case, then it means there is no tangible solutions to the problems we are facing. That therefore leaves anyone to speculate as what would be the solution. When there is no solution, cogent and tangible solution, from a central point, then it leaves everyone. Anyone can speculate as to what should happen, even when that is not the correct trajectory of things. Because when there is a genuine, a deliberate discussion on how to tackle a problem, because implementation of government policies is squarely the role of the executive, the president and his team. When there has not been a deliberate discussion on how to tackle the issue, for example, of the hard economic times, any person, you know, the Constitution allows people to have the freedom of speech, and they may ride on the freedom of speech, not knowing how the impact of what they are saying has on the government they are serving in.
Yes.
Because it's like shooting the hand that is supporting the gun. I mean, it is just outrageous.
On this question, just before I come to Nabiso O'Brien, you have an economic advisor who is saying, well, you trusted a politician, you trusted those promises, and it's just a thin line away from saying, well, you supported RUTO, good. You listened to the promises he told you, good. Then you're the problem. What I'm telling you, these things that we're working on might work, might not work. If they work, inshallah. If they do not work, we're in this together. When you have somebody speaking like that, somebody told me yesterday, it is vibes and inshallah. We wake up in the morning and try. If it works, whew, we celebrate. If it doesn't work, we go back and say, well, we are politicians. As a president, would you like to have such kind of a man seated at your economic council that every time he speaks, there are people who are questioning all the promises that you made during your campaign period? Not 3 years down the line, Macharia, not 4 years down the line. 1 year. He's now telling you, if you trusted the politicians during the campaign, that's your problem. That's your problem. Meaning that Kenya Kwanza manifesto is just a paper promise. Now is when we're working. It might work, might not work.
I think it's sometimes the friends we pick and the people we pick to work with, no matter how much our intention is, they may make us look bad.
Why is the president not calling Day and saying, well, but you can't say something like that? I would like to believe that if it says, hey, you can't say something like that, he will stop. If the president called Moses Kuria today, Mashari, and said, bro, you can't speak like that, he will stop immediately.
So I am trying to understand, and I saw the analogy he gave that even patients go to doctors, doctors try, and patients die.
Does it?
But then we have to ask ourselves, as I said, Elijah, there are so many promises that the government made, and I know for a fact not all of them will be achieved, and that's not even the problem. Promises have been made since the independence.
Does it?
But then we want to see a genuine effort in fulfilling the promises you made. But then the people you choose to advise you, their advice may not ultimately be the correct position, but then they ought not to come out prematurely to critique the advice they are giving you. Why are they even giving you advice in the first place? Because if, Elijah, I am to advise you on how you are to spend your money, and then before you even earn it, or before you even spend it, I come out saying there are some people who cannot be advised on how to spend their money, why are you even there? Your role as a leader is not to make everything perfect, but it is, something that, leadership and the operations of the society, these are two dynamic fronts. They change by day. For example, what was the need yesterday is not the need today. We cannot push the leaders to stick with the promise they made yesterday that will not serve the need of today. What we need them to do, it is to serve the need that we have progressively in line with their promise. That therefore means if there is a problem, the best solution would be, how do we tackle this problem? Even if we will not get the maximum utility or benefit, how do we tackle it? If we say, Elijah, that if people get sick, they will ultimately die, so there is no need to go to a good hospital, there is no need to spend on them because they will die. What are we saying? What ought to happen if there is a problem, Elijah? Let the government show genuine concern because it has the resources, it has the personnel, it has people to advise. To advise on, when you are advising the government on economics and the spending, you can advise the government on how can it maximize on the revenue, how can it minimize on the expenditure, how can it maximize on the utility, and the benefit for the people.
No, sir.
The social aspect. For example, if the price of unga is high, what other commodity can the government subsidize so that as much as you are spending high on unga, there is some other commodity that you have spent less? If the price of oil is high because of the factors beyond the control of the government, which are the other avenues the government can utilize so that to save on the spending by the people? Because spending is not the problem, but then you need to maximize and maximize on the utility and also the benefit for the people, and minimize on the wastage. So that is why the advisors are there. Economic advisors, communication advisors, to advise him what do you need to say, how do you need to say it. So an advisor ought to be someone who their position is not usually the and of course I also understand the person being advised can decide not to rely on the advice, but then that doesn't mean that you ridicule the advice you gave them. They have employed you as the advisor. What you need to do is to give us solution, not to the problem, or not to tell us how doomed we are because we chose a particular position. But you are also in the system we chose. The best you can do as a leader is to show direction, a sense of direction, a sense of responsibility, a sense of accountability. One of the things that citizens need from the leadership, it is, beside other policies, it's a good environment, socio-political and economic environment for them to be able to live their lives. That's why the government, the president has, and the government has advisors, so that how do we make environment and surrounding favorable for our people? If it is about agriculture, how do we make this, how do we make it favorable for them to be able to do their activities? But then if the advisors cannot, there is, when you are doing economics, there is always the SWOT analysis, the benefit, the opportunities, the threats. That is what they need to advise the government, so that by the time the government is taking a position, that position has minimum injuries and maximum benefit for the people.
Even in the communication basis, isn't it?
Yes.
Pretty much. Now, Nabiswa, that's what we're saying. See, the president called the CSS and PSS to State House and gave them a performance contract. And he looked like a very disappointed man. So that I don't understand how some of you have no idea completely on what your dockets demand. That some of you, I know what your jobs demand more than you do. So could you please go back and see exactly what's supposed to be done on your docket so you can help me deliver the agenda for the government? Moses Kuria comes out and says, I'm a truthful man. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not the CS who's going to stand here and tell you all things are going to get better. We're watching around the corner. No. He said, get ready. El Nino is going to be here with us up to March next year. Good, be ready. And fuel, come February next year, it's going to be around 280 shillings. And there's nothing that we can do about it. Because for those who are crying about it, then go dig your wells and then start getting your fuel. Because you can't spend time crying on something that is out of control of the government. David indeed comes and says, well, you trusted him. Then that's your problem. That's not our problem. As the Economic Council, what we're doing is that we're trying to come up with economic policies that might work, that might not work. Same scenario that Mashari has given us this morning. He says that when you go to hospital, the doctors will work on you, but there's a probability that even with the best medical care, you might go. That's the scenario that is painted. So my point is this. If he is not satisfied with the performance of some CSs, the utterances of some CSs, why is he not cracking the whip? Nabiswa. Is that not the president saying, I'm also just making noise like the rest of them?
Okay, Elijah, like any other employment, no one supports Okay, we may have a few, but I think there is no any sane Kenyan who could really support Moses Kuria. Just like my colleague said,
yes,
just like a doctor, you are going to see him. Even if that doctor knows that you are going to die the next minute, but he should be giving you hope that you will survive. He himself knows that this one in the next few seconds is gone. But he will tell you, keep it on, you are going to be well. So, Moses Kuria, really, at this time, Kenyans are hurting. But now you are telling them, dig their own wells. Some of these Kenyans, they don't even have wells in their home, water wells in their home. How are they going to manage to dig oil wells? Now, I'll say this, Elijah, just like any other employment, there are some procedures. Moses Kuria, just on the other side of having, I'll say, like many people have said, a loose tongue. I think he is a person who needs, if actually, I'll say, if the president sits down with him and tell him, Kuria, you have the best ideas, you have the best brains. Does he need to do that? The problem is, it's your mouth. Just like any other employment, you are given some lanes, you will be given the warning letter, the first, second, then you will go. Now, I just like I said, Moses Kuria needs to be told. Needs to be told. They have to, the president needs to sit down with him, tell him that Moses Kuria, I'm giving you 2 months. Work. We've seen him traveling out, saying that he's going to look for investors. It's actually before even the finance bill, you know, many ministers, many governors, many members of parliament were telling us we need the finance bill so that we can have money. The finance bill has been there 2 months down the line, operational. Before that, he was out. We see him in UAE saying that he's going to look for investors. Right now, he should be telling us who are some of the investors that he has brought in. How many oil refineries investors has he brought in? How has he worked around to ensure that we have investors who will work around the fuel ministry?
Who should be tasking him with this responsibility, Nabiswa? Should we be questioning the president for not
He has been given the mandate by the president.
That's it. So who should be questioning him right now when majority of Kenyans are questioning Moses Kuria?
This is what now we have to see. Like right now, there is a UDA leaders meeting, I think, next week. Now, from there, Elijah, I will just tell you blankly whether what will come out. And you know, sometimes I look at President William Ruto. You remember President Mwai Kibaki? He was a bit of a so considerate president, whereby even if we have a minister who was not doing well, he could sit down with him, talk to him very slowly, the way he used to do. Then, after a few months, he doesn't improve, he's moved to another docket, and you will see some changes. So I still think Moses Kuria is a person who can work. He's a person who can perform.
Now, so is that your opinion, isn't it?
It's my opinion. But now the biggest problem, Elijah, I'll just tell you. You see, the contribution of Moses Kuria, and this is the problem now where politics has really eroded our governance system in Kenya, more so the executive. You know, the contribution of Moses Kuria towards William Ruto becoming the president was so huge. I know my colleague will agree with me in one way. Moses Kuria was among, if not the second in rank, third, among the people who really pushed Uhuru Kenyatta out of the Mulima Kenya people's hearts.
No, sir.
So this is a person who is he's there out of reward. But again,
so he can do whatever he wants.
That is it. And he knows
that I can do whatever I want.
That's the problem. Now, this is now the point where I will really call the president and say, you have to. There are some people.
Yes.
You are good. He is the best.
Yes.
The president can perform beyond that 55% we are looking at, but there are some people in his cabinet, in his government, who are lacking him behind. And during the last talk, Elijah, I told you, one of the reasons why President RUTO did not get that 45%, he had 55%. One of the reasons why he did not get that 45% is not terming his some of underperforming ministers and officials in his government, because you cannot, like, only 2 or 3 we can see them working. Many of them, they are not here, not there. The president himself is out there marketing country, marketing Kenya. 2 months ago, you saw him giving a speech at the famous historical Paris Tower.
Yes.
I think that's the correct name. He did marvelous. We've seen him, how he articulates African issues and calling for a strong Pan-Africanism. He has done well. You saw him when given an opportunity, and today I think he's going to give a keynote, if not a speech, at the UN Council. He's doing well in marketing this country, and you know, when he does that, he's giving, he's raising or brightening the picture of Kenya to the investors out there. But there are some
to the
people.
things that Kenyans want him to do here,
yes,
in the country, Nabiso Brand, because that's what the conversation is. That you can't be doing good outside there. But then, when you have a CS who, a trade envoy will come into the country and say, no, I don't want to speak to him. Is that not a two-faced picture that we as Kenyans should care about today? And I want us to go for a tiny break, Nabiso. Once we come back, there's also another man who's questioning the president. It is Rigathi Gachagua. Macharia, what does Rigathi Gachagua mean when he says, we, as the party, if asked about those talks at the Bomas of Kenya, we do not want them. But since you're the president and the leader of the party, and you said, fine, let's go right ahead with the party and let them talk about the elections. We are going to listen to you and agree with you, just on the basis of you're the president and our party leader. That particular situation right there, is that no Rigathi Gachagua saying, Bwana, na azi hatutaki mambo bana, lakini jueni prezo, nzawa tu, whatever comes out will come out, but then we'll see what comes out, but we know nothing is going to come out. Once we come back here, then Mr. Brian and Mr. Macharia Paul are going to look in that statement and then say, are those the cracks that we're looking at right now, once we come back?
Maisha ni magumu, mara hutoki, mara kama wataka kutoka ambao mama shauri yako utashikwa, varudi ndani ya nyumba na wajukuu wako.
Siku ya leo sasa hivi tuko katika kaunti ya Kwale. Sehemu hii inajulikana kama Simba. Madhumuni yetu ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunabadilisha maisha ya watu kama 800. Kila mmoja atakuwa anapokea chakula, yote ni kwa hisani ya RUTO Foundation.
Tunaambia asante sana. Tunaomba tupate zaidi ya hivi.
Nashukuru sana alhamdulillah kwa kupata chakula hiki. Kwa hivyo mimi nasema asante sana tena sana.
RUTO Foundation nasema tunashukuru, tunawaomba wakati mwingine kututembelea.
Kumbuka wakati ambapo unacheza loto, 25% inatumika kufanikisha shughuli hii. Sasa hivi tunavyozungumza takriban milioni 600 imetumika kubadilisha maisha ya watu kwa hisani ya RUTO Foundation. That is why tunasema kila wakati RUTO Foundation, changing lives.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
All right, welcome back. We are looking at the seeming cracks within the Kenya Kwanza government. I'm still with Abiso Brown and Mr. Macharia Paul this morning. Now, Paul, let's look at another man who makes us then start asking these questions that are getting asked here this morning. He's not just speaking to Moses Kuria, no, he's not. He's also speaking to the president. Let's begin with an address that he did to the president a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, at a church function, actually 2 weeks ago at a church function. Told the president, look here, as a party, if you ask us deeply what we want to talk about, we'll tell you we want to talk about leading this country. But those bombers of Kenya negotiations, nothing is going to come out of it to the president's face. And number two, the people that are talking about our win in the 2022 general elections have got no capacity whatsoever by law to talk about it. But because you're the president, we're going to say yes. And our party leader won't say yes. Talk about it. But if you would ask us, we'll tell you no. The president is sitting right there in that particular function, Mr. Macharia, smiling, interpreting that message from the second man in command. Good. Rigathi Gachagua again gets Moses Kuria and the likes of David Ndii and says, you can't speak like that. You just can't start in front of microphones and on your platforms, and you've been elected leaders and given those positions, and also start talking the way you're talking. You can't do that. But you see now whose voicing is concerned. It is the deputy president. Quick at it. Telling the likes of Ndii and Moses Kuria, no, you can't do that. You either ship in or ship out. So when you have a deputy president who's looked at the situation within the government and said there are problems here, is that not telling enough that indeed these cracks that we're seeing actually do exist, Mr. Macharia? Let's begin with the deputy president addressing the president.
Thank you. And one thing that I would like us to focus on the process of becoming the president and the implication it attracts once you are elected the president. One, the president is a symbol of national unity. Not the deputy president, but the president. So anything that the president does, it is not looked as the leader of UDA, but as the president of all the individuals. Those who voted for him, those who did not vote for him, those who did not even vote at all, those who cannot qualify to vote, he is seen as the symbol of national unity. And I think for us to understand why and where Rigathi talks from, Rigathi, he is supposed to be the assistant to the president, the deputy president. And McHugh, there are some things that the deputy can say and he gets away with them. Because no one has, the constitution has not conferred upon him a symbol of national unity. When he speaks, we do not have an image of a person who is trying to unify the state.
Yes.
We see him as the leader of the party. And I can understand him. And in essence, when the democracy that we have and world over, it is the by majority. And the majority means how the majority, the classification of the majority, it is the people who support you. So when he says, and there was one interview that was done to the president, and he was asked about the issue of shares, and he said, you see, the person who talks about shares is an adult. You can as well ask him about it, because he's there to answer those things. The truth of the matter is,
again, which is telling as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Like it looks simple on paper.
Yes.
But it's telling as well. It's like,
by implication.
That's it. Is him saying, guys, I didn't say that. You go ask him.
The person who said it.
You go ask him. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
So for us to really understand,
yeah.
And one thing I have seen, it is very easy to discern that the deputy president speaks the concerns of the party, which position the president can't, because when he is elected the president, he ceases to have or to play identity politics. The president cannot just be heard to promote the concerns of his tribe,
yes,
the concerns of his party, the concerns of the people who voted for him. When we voted him in as the president, it elevated him above the party. All along, the opposition leader, the other party leaders, they are justified to push for the concerns of their parties. But the president, the constitution places him in an elevated position that he will not only look at the concerns of his party, but the concerns of the people. When the concerns of the people are greater or conflicts with the concerns of the party, the constitution obligates him to choose the concerns of the people, because he is supposed to symbolize unity for them. Just like a national flag or the national anthem, it resonates and it has an equitable meaning to all of us. So when deputy president, and I think he is justified as the party that got the majority positions and got the majority votes, going by that, he is justified by what he says. Because even the other side on the opposition, they advance the interests of their parties. When you're talking about having an IBC that takes concerns of all the players, what are you saying? You're saying, in other words, you're saying, we also want to have a say into the people who becomes the referees. When you're talking about the position and the office of the official opposition leader, what are you saying? You're saying, we know we have lost, but then we also want a recognition, not as a country, but as a group, the identity. Now, the president cannot play identity politics, because if he does, it's going to get bad with him. I want us to take an example. Recently, the president told a business person about how they're going to, the corrupt individual, how they are going to either exit this country, or they're going to be jailed, or they're going to go to some other places. You saw how that turned around. Even if whatever I was saying is true, of course, in dealing with the government can't deal with them in the manner that is provided for in the law. But that it came from the president, some people trying to personalize it. Even when we know in real sense the government should not condone corruption, but then what should happen? Due process ought to follow. What the president is saying, in long and short, what I'm saying is the utterances of the deputy president and the president, they have not, in terms of the constitutional measure, if you have to have a constitutional measure, the position and the utterances, the president ought not to speak the position of the party, because he's no longer playing politics. And people have told him over and over again, they've said, you guys, remember you were voted in, we are no longer in the campaign period. Serve the people of Kenya, and that's the big mandate of the government. But even then, we cannot forget that this government is formed by the party. The party itself, by the law, there is the law that guides on how a party should operate. So the understanding, I see nothing wrong with when deputy president defends the position of the party. That is what he's supposed to do.
In front of the president? Paul.
In front of the president, then my understanding would be, sometimes, you know, in leadership, when you want to make a decision as a leadership, there are some factors that influences you. One, the president. Now, if we have to picture the president in terms of decision making, the president, he is influenced by the constitutional mandate he has. Two, his personal beliefs and convictions. Three, the party's belief and convictions. Now, I believe, and my understanding would be, whatever the deputy says in front of him that may seem contrary to what the president is doing or has decided to do is just a way of trying to persuade him to think like he may have said. There are various issues that influences how a person makes a decision. It's just one of the influence he thinks may have an impact on what the decision president makes. But then the president, no matter, and it is good that people air their voice, so that then the president, through the constitutional powers and mandates, he can make a decision.
But also goes to speak generally what the position of the party is, isn't it?
Yes.
And the party rose, and as the president rose to presidency through his party.
Yes.
Majorly.
And that's why even the concern of his party is also a consideration he need to make while making the decision. But then it is not the primary consideration, because his position elevates him from the party position to a national position.
Number one, the president, the deputy president, choosing a church gathering to tell the president exactly what the party is talking about. And knowing very well now that UDA elected, nominated leaders are going to meet next week. Do you think that part of the agenda that is going to be bigger in that meeting, well, now the president will sit down and listen to exactly what the party members are saying, is how do we stop these cracks that are appearing within this government? Is that, are we able then to sit down and say, well, that's what's going to happen?
I think from that meeting, because I've seen several members of parliament and several leaders from Kenya Kwanza speak. I've seen Boni Khalwale, you've highlighted that. The other day I saw Didmas Baraza speak, and they are really calling on these ministers who have to work and try to fix the problem that Kenyans are facing. Chirchir appearing in front of the Senate committee and telling them that there is nothing we can do. That's what are you telling Kenyans? Simply you are telling Kenyans you are on your own, continue suffering. And that is not the best thing to hear from a minister who should work. You know, at least give us hopes, even if you know that it's not be there. Just tell us. And being a minister, you have to find solution for that. Not telling us we don't have a solution. Moses Kuria's sentiments, you know, this is some of the things that they are going to speak about, and we hope that the
any
president...
repercussions that we do expect after that meeting?
Honestly, I don't think. I don't think
completely
someone is I don't think someone is going to be fired. Because I know how the position they hold. Alternatively, someone else might suffer might carry the cross of the big boys in the their ministries.
Another way to think about it. Are these utterances we're seeing from this particular leaders, David Indi, Moses Kuria, the likes of Chilcher, are they also telling of a looming reshuffle within the government? Somebody told me they might speak like people who know wall, for lack of a better explanation, like the kicks of the last kicks of a dying horse. We know we're going to get kicked out, so we can say whatever it is.
There might be reshuffles. Reshuffles might be there, but facing an ex or expelling someone, I don't think, and if it will be, I don't think it's going to be someone we expect. Just like we are football fans, we watch football and sometimes you say this guy must be substituted. At the end of the day, the person who is playing well, the Kai Havertz who is will play for 90 minutes. So
yeah, that doesn't
it's
work
just
for Man
the same
United.
thing.
Anyway.
Then
Yes.
on these remarks of deputy president,
yes,
you see, I don't know. I don't know where this culture has come in. Look at from the past. You could see before Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta became the president, you could see him speaking all manner of things, calling Raila Muguluki and all the manner. But when he became the president, he never used such kind of language unless during campaigns.
Yes.
And you see the person now who was tackling the opposition with all manner of name calling abuses was the then deputy president William Ruto, and he did well, you see, calling the opposition leaders all manner of words, including my senator as a man who was once beaten by his wife. And he went, but now, right now he has graduated from that.
Yes.
It's now the Rigi G who has taken that role. So I'm really trying to think, where does this culture came from in our governance system, that it's the deputy president who has to tackle harshly the opposition leaders using heavy words. And we are seeing it now. It's now Rigathi Gachagua.
Yes.
Next, when Rigathi Gachagua maybe graduates to being the president, he will be soft-spoken. Someone else now will take, he will never use such kind of words. Someone else will
Yes.
take that role. And as he said, the president now being the symbol of national unity. You see, like Kenya needed a dialogue. Needed to sit down with the opposition to ensure that there is calm in the country. Being the symbol of national unity as a unifying factor of the country,
yes,
he instituted the talks. He called for both sides to sit down, and he said, now, just discuss, give us the report. But I'm sure even himself knows that out of these talks there is nothing that will come out. And given in some instances, you've seen him say it openly, saying that tukubali nusu mkate, the president himself. So that only shows that it's not gonna work.
Yes.
And looking at the demands, all the demands and the issues which are in the talks, Elijah, they are the issues which the government has been against from the word go. And
but can't you support the president's agenda?
Yes.
That's the question. That even did you know that as a party we do not support as a deputy president, you always speak what the president says, you reiterate what the president says. And Abiso, I'm sorry to cut you short. We have 8 minutes left for this. I want you gentlemen to weigh in on the last one, on having a super party leading all the way to 2027. There is a man somewhere who is causing a bit of ripples within the Kenya Kwanza government. His name is Cleophas Malala, the SG. Is pushed to make sure that even the affiliate parties within the Kenya Kwanza government would essentially be swallowed by UDA. So you have a super party leading to the 2027 general elections. That is not really sitting well with majority of these parties that joined the coalition. The likes of Fort Kenya now, who are getting presented with an idea that, hey, how about you become UDA? That is essentially another area that is creating cracks within the Kenya Kwanza government. Macharia, in 3 minutes, if you may, is it possible to see a super party as the president and the deputy president envision towards 2027?
I would answer this question in this manner.
Yes.
And I want us to see that debate in context of the whole framework of devolution. And the Constitution, when you look at the tenets of democracy and the tenets of independence operations, be it of individual, be it of the positions, be it of the organization and associations, I think it will not be prudent, and for the purpose of democracy, to have everyone abandon their house to come join one house. Reason being, when there is the difference, the common goal make us more stronger than just being together.
Yes.
So the focus ought to be, because the Constitution allows, you can form a coalition. And a coalition can be a conglomeration of parties. So what would be the incentive of people abandoning their parties to come to one party? What you need to understand, the parties, they bring about diversity. Diversity resonates to culture and difference. Difference, the Constitution recognizes the difference and recognizes diversity. How to deal with the issue of diversity and difference may make democracy stronger or weaker. What ought to be in dealing with minority, because these small parties are the minority, they ought to be allowed to be autonomous in their own space, but then within the bigger framework of the bigger party. That you can decide your affairs, but then your affairs should align to the bigger affairs of the party or the coalition you are in, rather than folding your party and going home. I think for the purpose of growth of democracy and for ensuring that every person is accommodated, so that we also avoid the issue of the parties that are affiliated to an individual. Let us have goals. Let us have ideals that if you want to be a coalition, a party within a coalition party within this coalition, these are our ideals. So what you need to do, align your party ideal to our ideals, so that we are fighting from a joint and a bigger front, rather than folding up your party and joining us. And I've said the issue of diversity, the issue of minority, the issue of independence is very important, because people will support you because you have your unique party. But when you bring another party that it's foreign to them, they may not support you. And there is the issue of authenticity and originality of the people. Because you understand, these small parties, they are formed maybe from the regions. So when these regions form the bigger coalition, there is a sense of appreciation, accommodation, and recognition. So difference is very important. And minority rights, they are also key in the bigger framework of democracy.
Pretty much. Nabiswa, take 2 minutes. The possibility of a super party towards 2027, is that creating a split within the Kenya Kwanza government? Actually, 1 minute 30 seconds.
Okay, Elijah, this formation of a super party, to me, it's an idea which will cause some problems, and it might work well for the purposes of 2022 general elections. But going further, it will not be sustainable as such. And you know, some of these parties, small parties, act as kiosks, and they are individual owned for their own gain interest, that when I join such a given coalition, I'll get something. You know, I'll just take an example of Kenya Kwanza and even Azimio. The leadership of that parties are given in line. They will say, you came with your party, we are in this now, this party has been given this post. Now the party leader will take it. Like all the parties in Kenya Kwanza, the party leaders of those small parties are either ministers or in higher state positions. And also, it will really undermine our party democracy and multipartyism in this country, because we have a right to have very many parties. But now, if we are asked to break our parties and form one party, it means that we are silently undermining the party democracy in this country. But also, most of these parties, Elijah, what do they stand for? Like, they all have names for just the sake. You look for, like, I like using for the Kenya as an example. Yes. They say usawa, haki na ukweli. Does it really reflect what they does? Same to kazi ni kazi of UDA. Is it reflecting? Same to ODM, maisha bora. Is it really reflecting that maisha bora? When the MPs feel that we need to push to ask for the president to reconsider our side now that we are not shareholders, you don't want that kazi bora to come. You are whipping those people who are going to look for kazi.
Yes, in 30 seconds of this one.
Yeah, so Elijah, let all the parties thrive, whether small or big.
That's it. Yeah. Pretty much. Guess what? Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to the studio today. We're waiting to see exactly what that meeting next week essentially comes up with, because all UDA leaders are going to meet there and talk about what is going within the party, because we do know UDA is majority Kenya Kwanza government. So maybe some of the things that the likes of Paul and Beswa are telling us this morning, we might see ramifications next week after that party, and we shall be here right here on Morning Brief just to report to you when and how we get those details. Guess what? We take a tiny breather. Once we come back, then I'll be taking you to the health sector in the country. Let's talk about the thyroid disease. What do you understand about it, and how do you then protect yourself from it once we come back?
Jamaa jo, mazena inflation jo na hii mafuta venye mepanda jo, mmefika at the right time.